Episode 11, titled Apply FedRAMP Tailored for SaaS, we zero in on when the lighter-weight authorization option actually fits and how to use it without cutting corners. The Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, or FedRAMP, offers a tailored path for certain low-impact software-as-a-service offerings, and it is attractive because it trims documentation and testing to match modest risk. Tailored works best when your product's footprint is simple, your integrations are shallow, and your data is boring on purpose. The promise here is proportionality. You keep rigor where it matters and avoid burden where it does not. Our task is to name those conditions clearly, show how to validate them with a sponsor, and document the resulting control story in a way that assessors can trust and reuse. Start with crisp fit criteria because eligibility is the hinge on which everything else swings. Tailored presumes low risk across confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and it narrows even further by excluding sensitive data and minimizing moving parts. In practical terms, that means no sensitive personally identifiable information, abbreviated as PII after first use, no custom code paths that behave unpredictably, and few to no deep integrations into an agency's internal systems. Configuration should be standardized, tenant isolation straightforward, and operational processes routine. If your value proposition requires complex data exchange, privileged hooks into mission systems, or nuanced role models that vary per customer, you are likely outside Taylor's intent. Eligibility is not about ambition. It is about the smallest, secure footprint that still serves the mission honestly. Confirming data types is the cleanest early test. Tailored assumes the service handles contact information, generic user account data, lightweight preferences, and similar low-sensitivity content, not mission-critical records, not health or financial details, and not operational data that drives real-time decisions. If you receive only names, emails, organizational roles, and ticket titles, you are in the safe zone. If you receive social security numbers, case files, or workflow payloads that an agency depends on for compliance, you have crossed into higher impact. Write this down in plain words. Enumerate the data elements the system stores and transmits, state which are prohibited by design, and name any technical guardrails that enforce those limits. When a sponsor reads that narrative and nods without qualifiers, the tailored case gains credibility. Understanding the scope difference is essential, because tailored does not mean uncontrolled. It means a reduced set of controls tailored to simple, low-impact services, where threats and consequences are limited. You will still implement identity and access management, secure configuration, patching, vulnerability scanning, incident response basics, logging sufficient to reconstruct events, and customer notification practices. You will still maintain inventories, manage change, and prove separation between environments. What drops away are the heavier families tied to complex integrations, custom development pipelines, or high-assurance data protections that are unnecessary for publicly releasable information. The goal is to meet the same bar of evidence quality with fewer, clearer controls, not to meet a lesser bar with hand-waving. A concrete example helps. Picture a basic help desk software as a service that offers knowledge articles, ticket intake, and routing, all delivered through configurable forms and canned workflows. There is no plug-in marketplace, no customer-uploaded code, and no administrative access beyond role-based settings in the standard console. Data includes user contact details and issue summaries, but intentionally excludes attachments that could contain sensitive content. The service runs atop an already authorized platform, inherits encryption at rest and transport controls, and exposes a few webhooks that the agency can ignore. That product is a tailored candidate. Its utility is real, the data footprint is intentionally dull, and the operational story is predictable. A sponsor can consume it with minimal entanglement, and you can document it without sprawling diagrams. The most common gotcha is assuming tailored applies despite hidden complexity, optional plugins that execute customer code, deep directory synchronization, privileged connectors into internal systems, or data exports that land in unmanaged destinations. Complexity is not a sin, but it negates the premises that make tailored appropriate. If your configuration surface lets customers materially change security posture, you must model and test those paths. If your dependencies would cause cascading effects during outages, you are in availability territory that Tailored does not contemplate. The easy diagnostic is to ask whether a new customer can onboard with configuration only and whether disabling all integrations still delivers core value. If the answer is no, pause. You may be in low or moderate territory and should pick the full baseline accordingly. A fast win is to pre-check eligibility against official tailored criteria templates and record the answers with links to evidence. Treat the template like a decision log rather than a marketing checklist. For each criterion data sensitivity, integration depth, customization limits, operational dependencies, attach a brief justification and a pointer to the system design, configuration policy, or platform inheritance that proves your claim. Do this before you write your System Security Plan, SSP, after first use, so you steer documentation toward the controls that truly apply. When you later meet with a sponsor or a third-party assessment organization, 3PAO, after first use, this packet functions as your opening argument, and it shortens the path to agreement because it anticipates their questions. Mapping the deltas is where planning becomes efficient. Identify the reduced requirements relative to the full low baseline, then show how your existing capabilities already satisfy most of what remains. Perhaps your platform's managed identity service meets authentication and session controls. Your hardened images meet configuration baselines, and your patching automation meets vulnerability timelines. Mark the few items you must tighten, like adding log retention to a minimum threshold or formalizing incident communication steps, and schedule those tasks. When you present the tailored case with a side-by-side delta, stakeholders see proportionality instead of a plea for leniency, and assessors see a package that respects the spirit of the program. Your artifacts should be concise without being thin. In the SSP, focus sections on applicable controls and keep inheritance mapping specific. Name the platform service, the region, the configuration knobs you enable, and the evidence locations you will produce. Attach short operating procedures for account provisioning, patch cadence, and incident triage that match your actual practice, not an aspirational one. Include diagrams sized to tailored scope, public entry points, administrative consoles, data stores, and monitoring flows. No sprawling networks you do not control. Evidence samples should be current, dated, and replayable. A ticket showing patch closure, a log excerpt proving login events, a configuration snapshot demonstrating encryption settings. Tailored values clarity over volume. Deliver clarity. Coordination with the sponsor is the make or break step. Confirm that the agency accepts tailored for this use case and understands what monitoring they will receive. Some sponsors will ask for minor augmentations, longer log retention, multi-factor authentication specifics, or a quarterly security touchpoint, even when tailored is otherwise acceptable. Record these conditions in a short acceptance memo and reflect them in your continuous monitoring plan. If the sponsor hesitates because their environment or policy profile sets a higher bar, treat that as decisive. Tailored is a partnership, and acceptance by the mission owner is the final eligibility test. An early, direct conversation beats a late surprise at an authorization board. A brief walkthrough scenario ties the pieces into a believable story. A vendor qualifies for tailored based on the data profile and integration simplicity. They document inheritance from an authorized platform for physical, environmental, and base cryptographic controls. They implement their own role-based access and application logging. They exclude custom code and block file attachments by policy to prevent sensitive content ingress. The sponsor reviews the eligibility packet, agrees with the classification, and asks for a monthly vulnerability summary. The 3PAO plans a focused assessment aligned to tailored controls. The SSP references specific evidence locations, and the package moves cleanly because every assertion maps to a page, a setting, or a log. Nothing is vague, nothing is heroic, everything is proportionate. Hold on to the sticky idea that makes tailored sustainable. Lighter scope, same rigor on remaining areas. Where controls still apply, the quality bar does not drop. Authentication is crisp, patching is timely, logging is trustworthy, and changes are recorded with the same discipline you would show in a fuller baseline. The difference is that you have fewer places to prove, not weaker proof. This mindset keeps the package defensible when skeptics ask whether tailored equals easy mode. You can answer that it equals focused mode, and then open the evidence to show that focus did not erode assurance where it mattered. A quick check keeps teams aligned. State aloud 4 items. Eligibility confirmed. Reduced control set identified. Sponsor agreement recorded. Artifact focus defined. If any item is missing, you are not ready to proceed. This simple readback catches silent assumptions, the kind that later become findings or schedule slips. It also prepares new contributors to join the effort without rehashing the whole rationale. They hear the pillars that hold the tailored case up and know where to look for details. Repetition here is not ceremony. It is muscle memory for disciplined delivery. Because people change, code changes, and vendors change, build a verification loop that revisits tailored eligibility after any architectural shift or vendor switch. If you add an integration that pulls operational data, reconsider data sensitivity. If you enable a plugin that runs customer-defined logic, reassess customization limits. If the platform provider alters service posture or your region moves, refresh inheritance mapping and evidence locations. A quarterly review with a small checklist, still low risk, still limited customization, still minimal integrations, still no sensitive PII, keeps the tailored assertion true over time. Version the review notes and keep them with your SSP references so an assessor can see continuity. We close by recapping fit and turning to action. Tailored fits when the service is simple, the data is low sensitivity by design, integrations are minimal, and the sponsor agrees that proportional controls suffice. It rewards clarity, not creativity, and it depends on honest scoping and disciplined evidence. Your next step is to run the tailored eligibility checklist now, record the justifications in complete sentences, and brief your sponsor for explicit acceptance or redirection. If the answers support tailored, proceed with a focused SSP and a compact evidence plan. If they do not, pivot early to the appropriate baseline. Either way, you will move faster because your decision rests on criteria you can defend. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.